Shri Ambe Jagadambe Shri Ambe Jai Jai Ma Shri Ambe Jagadambe Shri Ambe Jai Jai Ma Shri Ambe Jagadambe Shri Ambe Jai Jagadambe Shri Ambe Jai Jai Ma Shri Ambe Jai Jai Ma Shri Saraswati Mahasaraswati Shri Saraswati Jai Jai Ma Shri Saraswati Mahasaraswati Shri Saraswati Jai Jai Ma Shri Saraswati Mahasaraswati Shri Saraswati Jai Mahasaraswati Shri Saraswati Jai Jai Ma Shri Saraswati Jai Jai Ma Shri Lakshmi Mahalakshmi Shri Lakshmi Jai Jai Ma Shri Lakshmi Mahalakshmi Shri Lakshmi Jai Jai Ma Shri Lakshmi Mahalakshmi Shri Lakshmi Jai Mahalakshmi Shri Lakshmi Jai Jai Ma Shri Lakshmi Jai Jai Ma Shri Tare Mahatare Shri Tare Jai Jai Ma Shri Tare Mahatare Shri Tare Jai Jai Ma Shri Tare
Lakshmi, being the mother, that is, the will that gave birth to the ego, took Kama's side. And Gauri, being the energy of action, simply said, "You will reap the fruits of your ignorance in the form of this and that." Nothing personal. But because of this, a conflict arose between Lakshmi and Gauri. This is a conflict between will and ego. Sometimes, inside us, there is such a conflict with action. Will tells us to do one thing, but we want to do something else. And what is the reason? Kama, the ego, who did not wish to surrender to Shiva. For example, Will says, you need to get up, perform your morning duties, recite the morning mantras, do your sadhana, and chant japa. And the other part says, no, I need to sleep a bit more. I'll try to practice dream yoga. This is such self-deception we have, and we fall asleep. But there's neither yoga nor right dreams there. And so will and action start to struggle. But the reason is kama. That is, the soul's selfish mindset. Or sometimes, the will says, the energy of action says, I should read the text, try to understand it. But the other part of the will, which gave rise to kama, says, I want to watch something interesting, maybe some news, think about something pleasant, though it has nothing to do with dharma, but just leads me off track. And again, a conflict arises between them. And it was stated there that when the gods came to watch and take part in this conflict, Vishnu, Shiva, they immediately fell into unconsciousness. It doesn't describe how they fought. Nothing like that happened. They simply blacked out. This means that when there is a conflict of certain energies within us, our awareness shuts down against the backdrop of this conflict. Chapter 23. During this process, Lakshmi and Gauri exchanged further curses. A curse means that certain actions of the body or speech were generated. The energy of will somehow created imprints. The energy of action created certain imprints. That is, a curse is some kind of long-term trace of tamas or rajas in the soul. Some imprints. And when we have such a karmic experience, there are always traces, imprints left behind. And we encounter the consequences of these curses, the consequences of these traces. But when the energies within us do not conflict, when they are all devoted to God, such imprints do not remain. And so, a sadhu who is completely immersed in God, in sahaja samadhi, exists beyond the conflict of his own inner energies. They leave no imprints in him. His will is aligned with his actions, and his wisdom is aligned with his will. All of these function in a very integrated, very wise way. There are no contradictions anywhere, absolutely none. He does not commit a single wrong action. He does not make a single mistake. Not a single mistake. He can never reproach himself. Because he is absolutely flawless, absolutely whole. His actions, his will, his wisdom are in complete harmony and total devotion. This state is called 16 kala. When all 5 indriyas, the 5 jnanendriyas, all the organs of the subtle body, and the manas, the 5 tanmatras. The manas, the buddhi, is united with non-dual consciousness. This state is also described as the process of so-called 9 self-liberations, when the actions of body, speech, and mind, whether tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic, are all self-liberated. They are not usual actions. That is, one energy does not curse another. One energy leaves no trace in another. They are all self-liberated. They are all surrendered to the Supreme Source. That is why this is a play. There is no karma. When does karma exist? When imprints are created, when there is identification, when there is no self-surrender and self-recognition. But when imprints are not created, then there is no karma. There is only lila, the play. When there is a continuous play. And with a more complex classification, if we multiply 9 by 5, that is, each of the actions, in its 5-fold aspect of creation, preservation, destruction, concealment, and manifestation of divinity. That is 45 types of activities. 45 types of activity that a person can imagine, invent, and perform. All 45 types of activity are self-liberated. All 45 types of activity are no longer subject to the laws of karma. They are a spontaneous play. Here they are, the 3 freedoms of the Avadhuta yogin. 3 freedoms of Avadhuta mean that all 45 types of activity are free, so that whatever you happen to see, hear, smell, or touch, so that whatever you happen to say from gunatamas, rajas, or sattva, whatever you happen to do with your body that goes from tamas, rajas, or sattva, so whatever you happen to think from tamas, rajas, or sattva, whatever you happen to create, sustain, or destroy, or conceal, or reveal as an act of grace. All of this is not yours, but the spontaneous play of the Absolute, the creative manifestation of the Absolute, of Shiva. Everything is originally pure, self-liberated, manifesting as an illusory void play inseparable from luminous pure consciousness. So there is no more karma anywhere. But sometimes our energies come into conflict, and we feel remorse or dissatisfaction, a sense of discontent. We either scold ourselves or scold others. It makes no difference, really. It means that one energy does not correspond to another. The energy of the body does not correspond to the energy of the mind, or the energy of the mind does not correspond to the energy of awareness. The body says, I want to eat, so you go and eat. But the mind says, I want to fast, I want tapas, I want Shiva Vrata. The body has eaten, but the mind is dissatisfied. Next time, you fast and the mind wins. Shiva Vrata, fasting, the body is dissatisfied. Again, there is discontent. Now the body complains, what are you doing to me? But the mind is satisfied. And so there are many such separate energies of the body, speech, and mind that are in constant conflict. But when the ninefold self-liberation occurs, everything becomes one with the nature of the mind, and all energies act in wholeness. Everything is gathered, all abide in Ananda, all are devoted to God, and is no contradiction anywhere. Life becomes heaven on earth, a continuous play of pure, sacred, empty, illusory being. They say, on the island of gold, there is not even a shadow of dirt. That is, nowhere can you find anything impure or obscured. Everything is transcendent sattva. Even manifestations in guna rajas or tamas are divinized, becoming transcendent sattva, appearing as the nature of emptiness.
Chapter 22. Having listened to this magnificent story, Jamadagni, amazed by what he had heard, said to Dattatreya,
So, if we recall all these stories, that was Dattatreya in his ashram who told them to Jamadagni in response to his questions.
O holy Guru, what you have told. The exceedingly beautiful tale of Rama's deeds is astonishing to all, just as Lakshmi, devoted to her husband, became tormented by separation from him. How her rival brought great suffering to her body and inner feelings. Please tell me how Gauri turned to ashes because of her husband's blasphemy. Kindly deign to tell me all about this, he asked in such way, and thus satisfied by Bhargava, Dattatreya, the ocean of mercy, spoke. Listen, O Rama, I will tell you what happened before. Listen carefully. Vishnu, together with Mahalakshmi, resided in Vaikuntha. Pleased by the deep devotion of Vrinda and Bhumi, he accepted them, being long worshipped by them. Hiding from Lakshmi's anger, he continued to enjoy with them in secret. To Lakshmi's questions, Hari concealed them. After some time, Lakshmi, at the invitation of Vani, that is Saraswati, and with Vishnu's permission, went to her together along with all attendants. In Lakshmi's absence, Hari spent his time in playful pastimes with Bhumi and Vrinda, who delighted him. Then, unexpectedly, the goddess Rama returned to Satyaloka and found Vishnu, overcome with passion, together with Bhumi and Vrinda. Her eyes blazed with the fire of anger at the sight of Hari, and Rama immediately left the abode of Vaikuntha. Hari quickly followed her to the abode of the snowy mountains. Trying to stop her, he then grabbed her by the right hand. In her anger, she melted away like a lump of butter before a flame. Becoming liquid, she transformed into a river, the abode of Kamala. Its waters are sacred and purifying. Thus she became the river named Padma. But by Narada's curse, its waters dried up. At that time, Magiratha, the royal rishi, performed severe tapasya. The Ganga followed his chariot, which was moving toward the Padma. When Padma joined with the Ganga, she was freed from the curse. Then Ganga and Padma flowed together for a long time. After some time, they separate again before falling into the ocean. Whoever performs ablutions at the confluence of the Padma and Ganges rivers will attain heaven. After listening to the Guru's words, Rama respectfully asked, "O Bhagavan, Narada, the ocean of compassion, is exceptionally peaceful in mind. Why did he curse the river, and how was it freed from the curse by becoming part of the Ganga? Please tell me about this, O Bhagavan." Hearing such questions, the great sage Dattatreya said, "Listen, O Rama, to the wondrous deeds of Narada in times past. Once, Narada appeared in Brahmaloka at the assembly of Brahma, where the art of Gandharva Veda was born. There, the Gandharvas and other gods, Yakshas and Kinnaras, performed music, each more skillful than the last. Then Narada played a raga on the veena. As he played that raga, everyone present in Brahma's assembly was immersed in Brahmananda and experienced a bliss akin to nirvana. And everyone praised Narada, saying, 'Wonderful, wonderful.' Then the skillful Vani performed the raga named Kachani. Neither Narada nor the others knew it or were able to perform it. When the assembly ended, he set out on his way. On the way, he kept thinking about the manner in which Sarasvati had performed that raga, the way she performed it, so surpassing all else, and was incomprehensible to Narada. Arriving at the bank of the Padma, he, in a deserted place, began to perform the melody that Sarasvati had rendered so beautifully. Hearing a false note, the river burst out laughing loudly. Embarrassed by being mocked, Narada, overcome with anger, cursed the Padma river. "Since you have mocked me, may your waters disappear, O great river." Hearing such a curse, trembling with fear, the river prostrated before him and pleaded repeatedly to lift the curse. In response to her pleas, Narada altered the curse. "When you meet with the Ganga, you will be freed from the curse, O great river." Then the sacred Padma respectfully asked Narada, "O divine Rishi, who is this Ganga? How did she come to the earth? Why is she considered the embodiment of Brahma? Kindly tell me all of this."
In this regard, in Sanatana Dharma, it is not customary to mock holy people. Even if you find something very amusing, you may rejoice, but do not mock. Mockery contains an element of contempt. Not because they will curse you, but because a wrong imprint may be formed in your mind. And this imprint will create an obstacle. It will become a hindrance. Therefore, when it comes to sadhus, one must be very vigilant, attentive, and careful. If you understand this yourself, then everything will naturally be right. Saints are bearers of sattva, the deities. When we treat them incorrectly, this sattva is reflected and coming back to us, creating an imprint. Therefore, when it comes to holy objects, there should always be sincere, pure relationships, devotion, faith, or reverence.
Hearing Padma's words, the satisfied Narada, the great Rishi, the best among the divine rishis, told her the beautiful story of the Ganga. "Listen, Padma, to the beautiful sacred story that destroys all sins. There is the great creator of the universe, Brahma, the form of Shiva. His Shakti is the all-pervading essence, the heart of everything. Within her, composed of the great expanse, arises the stream of countless spheres. In each of these spheres, there is a chain of worlds. To appease this great Shakti, Brahma and others performed great tapas, and she was then pleased. Choose a blessing for yourselves from the goddess. Such was the voice that resounded from the heavens. Hearing this, the gods, Brahma and Vishnu said, "If you wish to grant a blessing by which even fools could attain the highest good, then appear before all of us in your primordial form." Hearing the words of Vithi and the others, She replied, "O gods, I will appear before you in my form for your satisfaction." When the lord of the Danavas named Bashkali subjugates the three worlds and is about to be killed by Indra's force, then Vishnu, in order to help Indra, will take the form of a young dwarf and, having received a gift, will cover the three worlds in 3 steps. With his foot, Vishnu will pierce from above the golden shell of the cosmic egg. From there, I will flow forth and pour down like a great river, the descendant of the stream of Amrita. Whoever sees me, touches me, or drinks of me will attain liberation. I will be called Ganga Tripadaga. Having said this, Maheshwari, in the form of space, fell silent. Thus, by granting a blessing to Vithi and others, she will become the great river Ganga. By encountering her, you will attain great merit. Hearing what Narada had said, the river asked again, "O divine Rishi, tell me how, after being pierced by Vishnu's foot, Ganga descended and reached the earth? I wish to hear everything about this, about the future very clearly." The best among the divine rishis said, "Listen, Padma, to the sacred narrative called the descent of the Ganga."
So, the holy deities speak of both the past and the future. A detailed prophecy is given about what will happen in the future. The future seems hidden only to humans. As for divine beings, it is like a blueprint that is revealed to them, like a diagram drawn in the heavenly realms. The future is created by the divine will of Shiva. It is already contained within the consciousness of Shiva. There is a concept called Mayurandarasa Nyayina. So what is that, Mayor? It is a peacock. Mayurandarasa Nyayina means that the entire universe is already contained within the highest consciousness of the Supreme Self, just as the multicolored tail of the peacock exists in the plasma of its egg. The entire universe, with its history, events, and causal relationships, is contained in a condensed form within the consciousness of Shiva, and then it unfolds. We are witnessing its unfolding. What we see is the unfolding of the divine will and the divine plan of the cosmos. Although it is nonlinear, not as simple as it may seem. Everything is a manifestation of the divine will. But Shiva has many wills, and there are also many universes of Shiva. It is impossible to escape Shiva's will. However, through the power of practice and tapas, it is possible to move from one will to another, from the will that governs one universe to another universe. This is possible, but all wills and all universes already exist originally within the consciousness of Shiva. There was a man to whom Shiva's will in this universe was revealed, and he didn't really like it. So he decided to perform some practices and thought, let's see which will prevail, Shiva's will or my own. He performed upayas and practiced tapas. And what had been predicted by knowledgeable people, by priests, maybe astrologers, did not come to pass, and the man rejoiced. See, it wasn't Shiva's will that prevailed, but my own will that won. Then the priest came again and said, actually, we've checked. Even the horoscopes have changed. Let's take a look. Even the lines on your palms have changed. So, Shiva's will is such that whatever is happening right now, that is Shiva's will. But that man insisted, no, it was my will. Through the power of tapas, I changed it, and this is my will, but Shiva's will was another. They said, no, from the very beginning Shiva's will was like this, and you only confirmed Shiva's will. The man then thought deeply about what had happened. And what happened was that, through his own efforts on one hand, and on the other at the same time, the man was appealing to Shiva so that he would revoke one of his wills. the man left the space of one will of Shiva and moved into another space, into another will of Shiva, from one universe nourished by one will of Shiva to another universe nourished by that same will of Shiva. But he never left Shiva's will at all. And so, when it seemed to him that his will had overridden Shiva's will, it turned out that, in reality, his will was only enough to pray to Shiva. And by Shiva's grace, he moved from one universe with a certain intention to another, but it was still the same will of Shiva. Then he wondered and asked, why is that? Previously, it was Shiva's will in one way, and now it is different. He received an answer from Shiva. My will is everywhere. My will is in everything. And it is ambiguous. One should not think that it is very simple and straightforward. It is multifaceted. And the person asked, so what is my free will then? Shiva said, you can choose between my wills. That is what freedom of will is. You cannot cancel Shiva's will, but you can choose between different wills. And so, Shiva's will is represented by the 5 main streams, the Amnayas, the 5 faces. One will creates, another sustains, the third destroys, and the fourth conceals. And the 5th manifests divine grace. Of course, they are further detailed, but these are the main ones. And so, we can choose one of these wills, one of the blessing faces. This is the face of Sadashiva, the one who shows divine mercy, the one who purifies, the one who liberates with just his glance, Anugraha Shakti. All spiritual practice and all our will are needed in order to move correctly between different wills of Shiva. From his creative will in the aspect of Brahma, from his sustaining will in the aspect of Shiva, from his destructive will, from his concealing and immersing will, from the will that leads into illusion, to the merciful will, the one that liberates, the one that blesses. When we move into such a will, this will begins to lift us up, to awaken us. It's not because our own will is so strong, but because we have entered the flow, the movement of Shiva's liberating will. We move between these Shiva's flows as if between rivers on the boat of this body, speech, and mind.
In the 33rd epoch of the Treta Yuga, the lord of the Danavas was named Pashkali and was a devotee of Vishnu, a knower of Dharma. By satisfying the Brahma, who sits in the lotus, through his tapas, he received the blessing to win the battle with Vasala and become the lord of the 3 worlds, following Dharma. Then Indra and the others begged Vishnu to use his Maya, and he, disguised as a Brahmin, appeared before Pashkali, begging the king of the Danavas for alms. Seeing this with the power of yoga and realizing that it was Vishnu, the guru, son of Prig, said, O Lord of the Danavas, this is not a Brahmin. This is Vishnu, who has come for Indra's sake. Whatever he asks for, you must not give it to him.
This is the well-known story of Vamana, the dwarf.
Seeing Vishnu, who had come in the form of a boy, Pashkali rejoiced at the sight of Vishnu himself. He quickly stood up and, bowing, offered him his seat, washed his feet, and sprinkled the remaining water on his own head. He honored him with a feeling of devotion and said, folding his hands, O Bhagavan, what would you like to receive from me? Accept this gift from me and dispel my confusion. The boy said to the Lord of the Danavas, grant to me, to a Brahmaksharan, as much land as I can cover in 3 steps. Hearing this, the king said, O Bhagavan, and even though my guru forbade me, how can I refuse what is asked by the inner Atman, the divine Ishvara? Forgive what my guru has said, O Supreme Purusha. With his left foot, he covered the entire earth. With his big toe, he pierced the shell of the cosmic egg. From there, the Ganges gushed forth in a sacred, nectar-like stream. Looking for a place for the 3rd step, he said to the Danava, with 1 step, I have covered the earth. with the second, the heavens. Tell me, where should I place my third step, O best of kings? Hearing Vishnu's words, Pashkali, lord of the Danavas, said, O Bhagavan, I will show you that place. It is my head. Hearing this, he placed his foot on the head as if on the ground and mercifully granted the lord of the Danavas the supreme liberation. Through the pierced great shell of the cosmic egg, Ganga, as the form of a Shiva, will be gathered by Brahma into a vessel of his great power. Then, after some time, the Lord of the Gods, having performed great tapas, true and sincere, and having received a blessing from Brahma, will return Ganga to the heavens. Then, after some time, a king named Sagara will appear in the solar dynasty, perform 1,000 horse sacrifices, and Indra will take the horse from him near the place of Kapila. Sagara's sons, numbering 16,000, will disturb the earth in search of the horse. And then Kapila will turn them to ashes. Then Sagara will have a grandson named Bhagiratha. He will be a righteous soul and, thinking of saving his grandfather, will perform severe tapasya. And Ganga will descend from the heavens onto Shiva's head. After performing great tapasya again, Bhagiratha will make Ganga flow on earth, following his chariot. Bhagiratha, standing on his chariot, will show her the way. Then you will be freed from the curse, O best of rivers.
These are the events that are destined to happen in the future. In India, there is an ashram where an entire family dynasty of Brahmins serves as keepers of certain palm leaf scrolls. There, you might find astrology and numerology knowledge. And, as it is believed, the fate of every person on earth, those who have lived before and those who will live in the future, is recorded there. You state your name there, they calculate something, and then they let you read your entire life story. That is, based on the universal forces of astrology, numerology, and the understanding of the forces of nature. The fate of every living being is calculated there. And you can come, make a donation, sit there, talk, interact, and they will give you a printout of your life. Do they say that liberation is also written there? Well, that is the only thing that is not written there. Because the one who surrenders to the liberating will of Shiva steps outside the rigid program. That is why liberation is always unpredictable. And when a sadhu steps onto the path of liberation, the gods say, I can't understand him. He is too unpredictable for me. Shiva's will regarding the creation and maintenance of the universe and its destruction is quite unambiguous. But Anugraha Shakti, the liberating will, is the senior will. And whoever surrenders to this higher will becomes less dependent on the other's wills, such as creation, preservation, destruction, and concealment. That is why all sadhana is aimed at discovering within oneself the connection with this divine higher will.
Does Shiva in the aspect of Ishana embody this, am I right?
Yes, Ishana and Sadashiva. And in order not to be subjected to lower wills, we must master the methods of contemplation, self-liberation, self-surrender, and self-recognition. In psychology, there is a simple method for worldly people to solve psychological problems. If someone says something unpleasant or there is some news, this is called the method of 10 so what. They advise the following. If someone says something to you and you don't want to get upset or affected, just ask, so what? And if they say something else to you, you also ask, so what? And when you ask, so what, 10 times in 10 situations, eventually you'll get the answer, nothing much. And the situation will dissolve on its own. Self-liberation in a worldly sense. This method, nothing much, means, in our terminology, refraining from making judgments and evaluations in a more elevated, classical, philosophical, and wise sense. But the principle is the same. Refraining from making judgments and evaluations means we stop our mind, our kamadeva. We don't let ourselves get attached to the situation or start reflecting on it. We put an end to internal reflection. Instead, we remain in a calm, untroubled, non-selective awareness. But our awareness grows, our calmness, purity, serenity, and contentment increase, and we become able to perceive this higher will, the will of Shiva, the divine grace of Anugraha Shakti. When non-selective, non-reflective awareness has devalued all samsaric problems, all samsaric clinging and attachments, you gain the right to reveal to yourself the pure nature of the mind's mirror, which is receptive to this higher divine will, Anugraha Shakti, divine grace. And you receive a quantum of grace. It may be something small, maybe 10 seconds, 30 seconds, but it colors your day, and you spend the whole day in a state of grace. And the goal is to never fall out of grace. This is the task of a sadhu. Only grace, the blessed state, liberates, burns, and incinerates karma. That is why contemplation, contemplative presence, can have not only a subtle, mental or non-mental nature, it can also have an energetic quality. This quality is a blessed one. It is the quality of abiding in love, purity, beauty, and harmony, refinement, greatness, and elevation. Sometimes saints do not teach philosophy, as we do, for example, but they are very simple. They have no disciples, do not write books. They are very simple. And when someone comes and presents some intellectual ideas or complaints, they say, hey, come on, just stay in love. Just abide in love, abide in purity, abide in Ananda, burn away your kleshes with grace. But it's very difficult to understand simplicity, even though they speak of great things such as abide in grace, abide in the energy of purity, love, beauty, harmony, devotion, and you will gradually burn away all your kleshes.
Guruji, all of this is being said, but it still doesn't quite stick. You can actually see very clearly how this ego is sitting there, somewhere deep inside of you, and it just starts doing its own thing entirely.
What are you doing right now? You're reflecting, aren't you? But I recommend to you, invoke grace right now. Replace reflection with invoking grace, and little by little, the process will begin. Because reflection is dwelling on the level of the mind, which does not allow grace to open up. Is that clear? Good. Yeah. Or, for those who have a tendency toward contemplative self-liberation, you can practice self-liberation. Well, I cannot remain in grace. But I contemplate, and it's not easy to say. I remain in contemplation and awareness. And gradually, space opens up in the space of Divyabhava. There is purity in it, and this grace begins to descend. Because you have trained yourself to remain in space, in Brahma Ahambhava. This is another way of grace, of cultivation of grace.
Thus Rama experienced suffering because of her rival. Then, after some time, Vishnu will appear as a human of the solar dynasty, dividing himself into 4 in order to kill Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, and to protect all the worlds. His consort Mahalakshmi will be born from the earth as Janaki and will be separated from her husband due to a curse from Gauri. Earlier, for some reason, Gauri herself was separated from Mahadeva, becoming the daughter of Daksha, who insulted Shiva during a sacrificial ritual. Hearing this insult, in her anger, she will turn to ashes due to the curse of Lakshmi, O Bhargava. Hearing the words of Guru Datta, Brigu again asked the Guru to explain this in detail. Such is in Tripura Rahasya, Mahatmya Kaanda, chapter 22.
Mahasaraswati, Shri Saraswati, Jai Jai Ma. Shri Saraswati, Mahasaraswati, Shri Saraswati, Jai Mahasaraswati, Shri Saraswati, Jai Jai Ma. Shri Saraswati, Jai Jai Ma. Shri Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, Shri Lakshmi, Jai Jai Ma. Shri Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, Shri Lakshmi, Jai Jai Ma. Shri Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, Shri Lakshmi, Jai Mahalakshmi, Shri Lakshmi, Jai Jai Ma. Shri Lakshmi, Jai Jai Ma. Shri Tare Mahadare, Shri Tare Jai Jai Ma. Shri Tare Mahadare, Shri Tare Jai Jai Ma. Shri Tare Mahadare, Shri Tare Jai Mahadare, Shri Tare Jai Jai Ma. Shri Tare Jai Jai Ma. Shri Ambe Jagadambe, Shri Ambe Jai Jai Ma. Shri Ambe Jagadambe, Shri Ambe Jai Jai Ma. Shri Ambe Jagadambe, Shri Ambe Jai Jagadambe, Shri Ambe Jai Jai Ma. Shri